And joining us here this morning, as I alluded to this morning, we have Bruce Alveston joining us from the Adaptive Outdoor Educational Center and the Horizon Center in Brunswick, and also Heather Zoccali, the Director of Caregiver Programs for No Barriers USA, and located in Fort Collins, Colorado. But here today, we're here to talk first about a caregiver retreat. Good morning to the both of you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Good morning, Greg.
Thanks for being here.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
Yeah.
This is a big trip all the way from Colorado up here. Let's talk about what's going on.
So Heather is with No Barriers out of Colorado, and we've had a long-time relationship with the organization. And a gentleman named Eric Weinmayer, who we've spoken about in the past, who's the first blind person to have summited Everest, was one of the founders of it.
Right.
And so it's been a good long-term relationship, and we caught up with Heather this last year and started talking about caregivers. And we've had a program going on for the last 2 weeks at the lodge, and it's currently, there's a group from all over the country that are there this week, and last week we had a group from Maine. So it's been a very wonderful week. They've enjoyed being up here immensely, and I'm going to let Heather talk a little bit about No Barriers, what she does, and caregivers.
Sure. We'd love to hear.
Well, thanks for having me, first of all. And so No Barriers USA was founded, like Bruce said, by Eric Weinmayer, the first blind man to climb Everest. And we serve populations of people living with disabilities, their family caregivers, youth and adolescents that serve that population, and then the educators that support them. So that's our programming right now. It was founded in 2003. Mm-hmm. How I got involved, 6 years ago, my son was walking to school, my eldest son, and he was hit by a hit-and-run driver and left him paralyzed from the waist down. And so we spent time in rehab, and throughout that, I realized that caregivers don't give themselves permission to take care of themselves. They don't grieve the loss that they've had and the trauma that they experienced. And so I wanted to create a space where you could get back to who you are and deal with your grief and trauma and be someone outside of the caregiver role. And so I started my own foundation, the Arch Foundation, and we worked a lot with No Barriers. And I was joking one night with Dave Sherna and Eric and Cindy that you have a lot of caregivers here. Why aren't you serving them? You should bring me on. And they called my bluff. And so
wow, meant to be.
Yeah, it was meant to be. So this is our second year having the caregiver program. There's 53 million caregivers in the U.S. That is a big number, and we don't hear about caregivers all that often. And these are family caregivers. They didn't choose to go into this field. It was thrust upon them by some change in their life. Out of that 53 million, 40 to 60% experience major depression, thoughts of self-harm, either to themselves or their loved one. And again, they just don't give themselves permission. They don't have the resources. There's isolation. And so that's what we're building. And like Bruce said, he had had this relationship with No Barriers, and I bugged him and said, hey, why don't you have us out? And he called my bluff again.
Yep.
So
meant to be.
It's meant to be.
Yeah,
so we have, like you said, we had a great group from Maine last week, beautiful. And then we have caregivers from all over the United States that are here today. Yeah. And so we're thrilled to be here. You have a beautiful spot. Wow. I mean, I come from an awesome spot too, but this is just breathtaking. We're so excited. And being in the nature and then having this beautiful space that they have that we can bond, and it's just been pretty. I'm always humbled to be around there and have everybody be able to unpack and build lifelong friendships and know they're not alone.
Being involved in this and heading it up, it must be pretty good therapy for yourself as well.
Yeah, as people ask, how do you pick your retreats? And I'm like, well, there's a bit of selfishness to it. I have a bucket list. And so I figure if I pick these places, someone else is going to want to do the same thing.
You deserve it.
So, yeah.
Awesome. What a great program. And are there a lot of Maine caregivers as well?
Yes, there are. When we put the registration out, it filled up very quickly.
Oh, that's awesome.
Again, we've done a little bit of a program with our aphasia program. It was part of a 3-day retreat, and it was very powerful. We had different activities for these people to do, and they absolutely loved it, because it's a time for them to be with other people that understand what they're going through,
Absolutely.
what they deal with. my wife and I were caregivers for a number of years for her dad, and we understand the work it takes, the love, the commitment, and of course her dad has passed now, but some of the people here now, it's a lifetime
Sure.
proposition, and our hearts really go out to them. And so when Heather called, they said this is perfect because we know the need, and it something that's very important to do. So we're planning on doing more next year.
How is this program funded?
So No Barriers is a nonprofit, and so we have, right now we don't have any, well, we have Voya has helped sponsor this, Voya Financial and Voya Cares actually has helped finance this one, and so through the funders and different corporations, that's how we fund it. And we had 1,400 applications this year for 75 spots,
Wow.
which, so the need, and that was only a month application, we had to cut it off, so the need is there.
Sure.
And then we fund it to where it doesn't cost them anything, everything's covered, because that financial burden is real and they won't spend the money on themselves, so if you provide them, then they feel it's okay to come. And so that's always been really important to me, because I don't think people think about the financial strain. Like a wheelchair costs $7,000, or if you have catheters, that's $6,000 every 3 months. And so to really make it attainable for everybody, we
It's
work
a
hard.
huge sacrifice for caregivers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, it sounds a really exciting program, and I'm sure it is touching to be involved in it. And if people want to get more information and maybe provide some funding, they can do that on that website that
Yes,
he
sir,
was
yeah.
just showing. Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic.
So they've had a lot of fun here. They've been doing some zip lining, some nature walks. Lloyd Cutler was very generous and took people up for a foliage plane ride.
Oh,
was,
and stories.
Yeah, and stories, yes. Always stories.
Get over here! You can check this out. Would you stay with us? We've got more to talk about. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with Bruce and Heather. So stay with us.